I know. It's very exciting.
Very
All right.
exciting.
You guys ready?
Yeah, I'm still running Yosemite if you're curious. 10.10.
It's very curious.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me stop typing like I'm old typewriter.
Okay. Here we go. Who's going to intro this? Jay?
Yeah, sure. What episode is it? It doesn't matter.
It's today's episode. All right, here we go. Nope.
I'm Deontay Burton, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Hamadou Diallo.
Hey, I'm Danilo Gallinari.
I'm Chris Paul, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
What's Dort?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what that was.
In English, bro.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
I'm Steven Adams.
I'm Andre Robertson, and I'm down to dunk. On you.
Hello and good morning. What's up? It's the Down to Dunk podcast. We are with you. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With you today, Jay Smith here, right here, Andrew Schleck,
Slam through.
and Taylor Dickerson.
Look at the stars. Look how they shine for you. And everything you do. Yeah, they were all yellow. Slam through.
You were so gentle singing
So
that
gentle.
song. Oh my goodness. Are you preparing to sing to a baby?
Yeah,
That's your good
any
night.
day now.
Good night.
Really, literally any day could happen.
I know.
Oh, that's awesome.
How are you doing? You guys doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man.
We're okay. We're fine. Why do I not look fine? I'm fine.
Do I not? Jay, nice haircut, man.
Thanks, bros. What's up?
Did you wear a mask?
Yeah, actually I did. And the guy
Yeah,
that
I
cut
was
my hair
gonna
was wearing a
say.
mask too.
About to say. My
About to
wife's
say.
salon.
Trying to protect people, man. Hey, number one is anytime I do an intro and it's not the L Man, it's so nerve-wracking for me because what do I do? You know, what do you do?
Yeah, you should. What you should do, Jay, is just do you, because you
I
try to
know.
do some
I'm
of
like,
Luke and some of you, and then you just eventually like get yourself back down to J-Mod. But
It's Jay. Yeah. And so I always try to, because it's such a uniquely good intro that Luke brings to the podcast, I always feel a lot of pressure to match that energy. So it's very difficult, but I brought what I could, guys. And so,
You know, the best you is the authentic you, Jay. And that's exactly what we need, okay?
yeah, what's funny is your computer glitched when you said that. Over here, at least it did. And it
It
sounded
did,
like you said gigantic, Jay.
No, that is
J-
what I said,
yeah.
so I don't think it glitched.
the gigantic you is the one we want, Jay.
that's what we're looking.
You need to put on a couple more LBs, man.
Get a couple more. Hey,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, but what I want to do is talk a little bit about basketball. We're getting closer. It's June 17th this morning when we're recording. You're actually going to get this on Friday. So, I can't remember what we're going to do. I think we're releasing this.
We're getting this today.
Yeah. And then we're going to
Today.
do the trivia podcast for Friday. Sorry. So
Yep.
our timeline's still a little bit jacked up on when we're recording, but we're going to get the FriPod out for you on Wednesday and then the trivia show on Friday. And so Shams of The Athletic, a partner, and we're pretty much just like Shams.
He's our buddy.
He had a
Sean.
tweet storm yesterday about the details that are coming forth about the bubble. And there's a lot of details in there, and we're not going to be able to discuss all of them. But Andrew, I know
Yes,
that
we are.
I know you've done a lot of you've done a lot of podcasts probably about this or paying attention a lot to this, because it was so much and I was still trying to work, and it was like it was a lot.
Yeah.
And so maybe give us kind of a cliff notes of some of the things that you all, and I don't know how much of that you got to look into, Taylor, but what are some of the things that stood out to you from what the details that are coming out are?
The plan is extremely thorough. I mean, if you just read what what Shams released in his article, which you should go to theathletic.com/down-to-dunk to get a free trial. Then you can just read it for free. Don't have to worry about paying for it. It gives a ton of detail on players traveling and how they have to be essentially quarantined before they go, quarantined when they arrive. They're going to be testing them daily. They have to keep 6 feet apart on the campus. You can elect to wear a wristband that has an alarm on it, to where if you get closer than 6 feet to somebody, an alarm will sound. I mean, that's required for NBA personnel, for everybody but the players. The players don't have to wear those, but they can elect to if they would like to. So they have those. They're going to provide those like Aura rings or whatever to help with coronavirus.
Nova rings.
Yeah, yeah. They'll be providing those for
I don't think that's it, but
players and their family planning. And they'll also provide these rings that will help with detecting coronavirus early on. So they're really doing the best they can, and they're essentially saying don't leave the campus. If you leave the campus, 1, you'll have to be quarantined when you come back in. 2, you're going to have the really crappy COVID test that goes all the way up your nose, because the ones they're going to be giving the players aren't the ones that go all the way up. They're going to do the saliva test, the blood test, but not that one. And so if they leave campus, they have to do that one. And so
and then you also get docked. You have to quarantine for 10 to 14 days, and then you lose pay. Is that correct?
they could. That
Okay.
could be a part of your penalty if you end up missing games because of it, which you probably would. So to me, it's incredibly detailed. If they're going to have a chance at this, I think they're giving themselves the best way possible. I mean, I can't imagine a better way. For me, a lot of players and coaches are like, there's just a lot of restrictions. Like, I don't know that I want that. I'm almost like, I want more restrictions.
Yeah.
Like, let's make sure that we can actually have this happen.
Yeah, and you're not gonna in your risk level of like some of your elite players getting injured or getting out with coronavirus is limited. Because so number one is if you're in a bubble, so you're controlling who's in and out, risk is cut dramatically. Basically they're isolating. It's just basically one giant family isolating in multiple hotels is what's happening.
Yep.
And then beyond that, to go to the fact of like, then they're maintaining some of the same expectations, even still within the bubble of 6 feet. I know that they're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, that personnel that's not the head coach, they need to be wearing masks.
Everybody will be wearing masks on campus unless you are exercising. They also wrote on there reading a book by yourself.
That was actually my favorite part. Was he didn't say just outside by yourself with it. He has a very specific example of unless you're outside in the pool or reading a book by yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's masks all the time. It's coronavirus testing every day. You can't be within 6 feet. It's players can't go in each other's rooms. There are just a lot of restrictions. And then hopefully by the time that you get to the point where you're playing basketball, you know who has it, who doesn't have it. If you have it, you're sitting out. If you don't have it, you get to play. I mean, I think this is honestly the best case scenario for the NBA.
It legitimately
crown a
feels,
champion.
To be honest, like it feels like, and this is how you want it to feel. It feels like overkill. Like, hey, man, like the bubble should protect them primarily on its own, truthfully.
Yeah.
Without having, you should be able to exist within a bubble if nobody has outside contact, knowing that everybody within the bubble is free of the coronavirus. If everybody stays in the bubble, and that's the problem, is you just don't know. Like if you knew that everybody just stayed there on campus for however long, because for some teams it's going to be a month, right? Like the beginning of the playoffs is sometime in mid-August?
Oh, I mean, yeah, probably mid-August, late
Yeah,
August.
so
probably,
there'll be
yeah.
some teams that it'll only be about a month.
Yeah.
That they'll be there, or month and a half quarantine. And then for some teams, like the hard part is the ones that it's going to be like the longest is going to be these teams that make it all the way to the finals. Like they're going to be there for 3 or 4 months. And what's funny is initially we talked about like as long as it doesn't have an asterisk by it, but it's like this may be the most mentally grueling and maybe even physically grueling of any NBA playoffs that's ever existed.
You might get 2 titles.
Yeah, like, hey, guess what? We're just going to give you 2 of these rings. And so
Just because, God, great effort out there,
I
boys.
mean,
We just got to give both these teams a trophy. That's amazing.
no, I mean the team that wins gets 2.
yeah, it gets 2 of them.
Just credit for 2 championships.
No, if you make it to the finals, you won.
It's just because it's it's going to be taxing.
It
Now
will.
I know that they're going to let family in at some point along the journey. They're going to there's going to be all sorts of things going on. And one of them
After round 1.
after round 1. And I
After
know
round
that,
1, yeah.
so which is also gives you an incentive to get past round 1. You can have your family come and watch round 2.
Well, you'll see your family no matter what. After
True.
round 1.
That is what will make it easier to stay there longer, though, is you're only there longer because you're getting the reward of being closer to winning.
Yeah.
Unless you're a cheapskate, because the players have to pay for the hotel room for whoever comes to stay with them.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Is that fair? Do they have a lot of money?
Yeah.
So, like,
are they going to be able to
if the-
afford it?
if
Who's
Thunder
going to pay
make-
for Lou Dort's room?
That's what I was gonna say. Round 2,
Yeah.
Thunder is somebody helping Lou Dort out? Come on.
Chris
That's
Paul.
true,
Chris
'cause-
Paul's making $45 million or $40 million a year. No, it's 30. What's he making?
Yeah, 30, but 30 plus, but he makes $400,000 every 2 weeks. So he should be able to help out Lou Dort a little
And
bit.
Lou Dort's
Yeah,
like,
he'll help out.
I make $75,000 this year. That's why I always felt so guilty when it was like on the road trips. It's like, all right, Lou's going to pick up the meal. And it's like, please don't make Lou do this. Like Lou can't afford
That's like
that.
a paycheck.
If for real would be a paycheck for him.
Please don't.
Do this to me. So we did get information on where the players are staying.
What is like the Grand Floridian? What are the name of the hotels?
Yeah, the Grand Destino is where the top teams are staying. The top seeded teams: the Bucks, Lakers, Raptors, Clippers, Celtics, Nuggets, Jazz, and Heat.
Let me pause that for a second.
Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead to the second group.
The Grand Floridian is where the Thunder, 76ers, Rockets, Pacers, Mavs, Nets, Grizzlies, and Magic will stay, which is probably known as the best hotel in Disney, by the way.
Really?
The Grand Destino is new, and it's like this big tower. I've never been to it. Maybe it is better, but the Floridian is known as the nicest. And then you have the Yacht Club, which is also extremely nice, by the way. Blazers, Kings, Pelicans, Spurs, Suns, and Wizards.
Well, you kind of changed my point because what I was going to say is like if the Thunder got really screwed on their hotel because freaking Rudy Gobert was a big dum dum, because I have no doubt the Thunder would have won that game and taken over 4th place
Yeah.
on that Wednesday night, that faded Wednesday night 17 years ago. So I was going to say if they got screwed over because of that, man, they're going to take out a lot of vengeance on that Jazz team whenever they play them.
Yeah. Yep.
But apparently
true.
they're all hey, guess what? They're all 3 5-star hotels on the campus of
This-
Disney.
They're all very nice. The rooms, though, are small in all of these locations. I mean,
You
they're
don't
much
think they
smaller
have,
than what they'd
like-
expect.
You don't think that they have bigger rooms though for the NBA players?
I mean, I'm confident that most of the rooms in these locations are small. Like these aren't like giant suites. There may be a
Yeah.
few suites, but I don't know that there's enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. There's
Not really.
like there's gonna be like 127 footers in the hotel.
They're gonna have smaller.
Giant.
I mean, Thunder,
Yeah.
Sixers, Rockets, Pacers, Mavs, Nets, Grizzlies, Magic. I mean,
They
Yeah.
have
the
they
Floridian
have-
rooms are small.
They've got these villas, man. I'm over here just looking around. Yeah, they're not. I mean, let's be real. It's not like they're living in the slums or anything. They're really nice
They are
hotels.
nice.
You know whose life is gonna be a living hell? Is Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert can't escape anyone. Is he just gonna stay in his room the whole time? because he's just going to catch so much crap from not even just his team. I mean, everyone he runs it. He can't play cards. He can't play 2K with the boys.
Yeah,
It's
because
gonna be living hell.
that is one of the other things that came out is they did talk about they have like a whole like all of this entertainment options for the guys to keep them kind of, which is if you're maintaining 6 foot distance, and I don't know how some of that stuff's going to work, but they do have like they're going to be showing movies all the time. They've got like a whole lounge area set up for them to go and just kind of be together. Which actually, I mean, here's the deal. And I was trying to send this text message yesterday, and I'm not even getting so let's finish one point before I move on to the other one. Is these guys are making like they're saving substantial amounts of money by playing just those 8 games, plus potentially any playoff benefits that may come their way because of their contract incentives. So I just want to say, like, I know it seems like it's super restrictive, but I'm also like, I mean, for $500,000, I would live in a hotel for 6 weeks with pretty minimal movement and stuff like that. Like I had to live in my house by myself for 2 months for nothing, like, so it's hard to like project it. Like, I'm not going to sit here truthfully and have any real sympathy for this. Like, it's going to be hard, but hey, welcome. Everything's hard for everybody in the era of coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, these players, like if it's just so different because if one of us made that kind of money in that short amount of time, we'd just be banking so much and basically just plan the rest of our lives on what we made. Like those guys are like, I mean, CJ McCollum came out and said that over half of the league is living paycheck to paycheck.
That's insane. But yeah, I understand it.
And so those guys are they're wanting to play so that they can maintain the lives that they have gotten, the cars, the houses, the second, third, fourth, fifth houses or whatever. They're trying to maintain all of that. And that's how a lot of those guys live. And so it is for their livelihood in some ways. And so I would be surprised. And the players that decide not to play will know by next week. The 24th is the deadline. So if you don't want to play, one, you have to have an agreement with your team and a legitimate reason not to play, whether it's you want to protest or you have a pre-existing condition. And the people with pre-existing conditions, they are not docked any pay at all. If you want to go just because if you want to stay home just because you want to, I think you're docked 1/92 of every paycheck. So it's not a ton. So
and I think
good for them ultimately if that's what they choose to do. They still get to make a majority of what they.
And I know there's like a growing, I mean, I don't know if it's growing or not, but there's at least a sentiment that is a part of this conversation about, and Dwight Howard's agent released the statement from Dwight Howard that kind of dealt with this. And if there's ever been a moment where I felt wildly unqualified to ever speak on something, it's this. And it's hard because all of you, I mean, so think about this, the majority of NBA writers that most of us listen to are white guys that shouldn't really comment on whether or not these guys should go play instead of staying home to be a part of these protests and this advocacy. And so like, just recognize that you may have feelings about it in the same way that I have feelings about it, but my feelings are absolutely through my lens. And that gives me really no right to actually speak with any sort of conviction on it. Now, do I think that there's a chance to do both? Sure. Like, I think what I've seen at least in the last 5 to 10 years is that the NBA community is one of like the spark plugs for good Lord, advocacy for a lot of this, truthfully. Like, I mean, LeBron James, like I remember when I think it's Eric Gardner in New York City who was choked and the same, I can't breathe kind of thing. And the whole NBA blacked out with the shirts that they wore, and the NBA supported that. The NBA has always been on the cutting edge of being more socially minded. And so I think there's a way to navigate this to where it can actually advance the conversation. But I do just say that to say, like, if Dwight Howard feels this way, or Avery Bradley or Kyrie Irving, like, I don't have any right as just a simple fan or even just a white person to be able to say that, well, you should do this. It's like, no, man, if you feel like that this hinders this potential advancement of the conversation on racial injustice or inequality or police brutality, like then I have no right, and none of the media members that would speak on it really have the right to say, no, you're wrong. Like that's the thing I keep going back to, is like whatever feelings I have are completely not a part of the conversation, because I don't know that life, that experience, and I don't know what kind of stuff is going on in their hearts and their minds, but also how this could impact that conversation. So that's been a weird journey for me, because I do find myself like immediately in my selfishness, like coming up with this real, like, oh, come on, like, why, come, just go, like, why would you do this? But I'm like, man, I don't know. And like, I think one of the hard parts about this whole conversation is the way you grow and move forward is by acknowledging that you don't know and you don't have the answer, and that your side of it or point of view may be the incorrect one. And so I just hope, like, as part of this, like, this at least is pushing me in that aspect of it. It feels like I think the NBA is going to move forward. I think a lot of the major players in the NBA are like, hey, we can do both. I know that LeBron has mentioned that. I know that Chris Paul would feel the same way. But I just want to caution anybody that's a fan and listen to this podcast to, like, don't start throwing your assumptions on how things should be into the conversation, because just the best place to be is like, I don't know what to do in the midst of this. I don't know how to respond to Dwight Howard's statement or Avery Bradley or Kyrie Irving. And so it's just, but it's such a unique dynamic as part of this whole entire conversation is also what's going on around our country, really around the world, in regards to those issues we're facing. So it's just, I don't know, man, this is the wildest time of my life. 2020 is a year like I've never experienced. I've been alive for 38 years, and I don't know. It's just hard to really know what the right next step is. And so
earlier, Jay, well said. And also earlier, you made a joke about that Wednesday night when the Jazz game was canceled, and how it was 17 years ago. And I almost said, I was like, well, literally, we all were different people. Like
Totally
4 months ago, like all the stuff that's happened, I think a lot of us have a lot of beliefs that have shifted and opinions that have shifted or grown stronger one way or the other. So it's so crazy. But you're right. I mean, because of that, and because everyone's trying to figure it out. And I know Kyrie might not be the best messenger in a lot of people's opinions, but you're right in us holding back our assumption and opinion on what he thinks is the right thing to do and what might be the right thing to do. So
right.
What do you think about Kyrie wanting to start his own league, though?
I mean,
that's totally doable.
Whatever you want to do, Kyrie, it's fine. Just do you. Please just.
I don't know if it's true, but somebody said that he left the Nets group chat after he sent that to them.
That's what I saw that on Twitter too. I don't understand that. So what? He just threw that out there and then was like,
No, I think maybe he was like berated for it. Like, are you kidding me? No, we're not leaving the NBA. You want to start a whole new league? I was all like, I was all aboard of, okay, let Kyrie, like you said, he's not the best messenger, but these are things to consider. I mean, these are valid things to consider. Right. When going into this NBA bubble. It's 100% valid. But then when you're like, yeah, let's just scrap all of this. Let's start our own league. That's when I'm just like, oh, okay, all right. Welcome back, real Kyrie.
Yeah, which does detract from the larger conversation, right?
It does. And saying that is that's the flat earth Kyrie.
So here's my question. So once again, like, I'm tiptoeing so hard around this because I admit my ignorance. Like, I confess that.
Of course. Yeah.
So if the heart of it for Kyrie is like, so truthfully, NBA players, predominant. I mean, are there any other African-American owners outside of Michael Jordan in the league?
I believe that's it.
So if that's kind of the conversation, I think that the sentiment of starting a new league, kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, we can work for ourselves. Like, we could do a lot of that stuff that really matters. For me, I think the long-term goal that actually is achievable is for LeBron James to become a partial owner or an owner of a franchise, for some of these guys to start taking over franchises and I think that's like LeBron's, I think that's one of LeBron's goals. I know KD has even mentioned, like, these guys are amassing enough finances that as they transition out of retirement, like, that's when change, it's a long game, and I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we're seeing that has raised up so much frustration and anger in the midst of this is that it's always the long game for the African American community. It's always about just wait, you know, and yeah, maybe in 20 years we'll be able to. And they're like, we want justice now,
Yeah.
which is totally right and justified.
Yep.
But I think starting another league doesn't really do any of that right now.
No.
And so that's why it's like, okay, Kyrie, like,
Well, that didn't sound
Usually-
like it was really backed by anyone either. I mean, that just sounds like something Kyrie said, and then everyone was like, "What?" I didn't see anyone in support of that idea, so I don't even know if that's an idea worth having an opinion about.
It's like that scene from Half Baked where he's like, "Who's coming with me?"
Yeah.
Like, no, we're,
Yeah.
It's like that.
Here's something we do know about Dwight Howard. I was talking with somebody about this yesterday. Dude was one of the most hated people in Los Angeles for forever, right? Like he was supposed to be a Laker for life. And then he left the Lakers. He left. And then they hated him for so long. And then improbably he returns as a free agent to the Lakers. Everybody thinks it's going to be a horrible, horrible experience. He ends up being a great backup for them, contributing to winning. Everybody loves Dwight again. And then he's going to say, yeah, guys, I think I'm just going to sit this one out. And then Lakers fans are going to be like, same old Dwight. So we do know that. And that's I just ultimately don't know that Dwight will sit out.
Well, didn't he walked it back? Didn't he walk it back?
He's already walked it back. But I'm just saying that like he
Yeah,
can't
because LeBron was like, hey, man.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's hard,
Dwight,
man.
do you think you have any control over whether you play or not?
I'll be at your house tomorrow with my
Yeah.
jet.
All he does is call him and he just laughs into the phone.
Well, and the thing about it, like Dwight Howard lives in Atlanta. Atlanta, I mean, obviously is kind of right now, especially kind of become the middle of this scene again.
Yeah. that's so true.
And Atlanta is such a difficult, just the whole dynamic of Atlanta and the South. And there's just a lot of dynamics in that. And so I think Dwight has a legitimate emotional response to this that's totally justified. And I think the hard part for me, and I know he didn't mean it this way, but it's like, and I know a lot of people go into this where it's like you start breaking down the semantics of a statement where it's like, we can't continue basketball until this is resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Dwight, like, I know you didn't mean it this way, man, but like this, it's not like, all right, in 6 months, we're going to have it resolved.
Yeah.
This is a years long rewiring of the system that has to be taking place. And so you have to, and I know he didn't mean it that way, you know, like it wasn't like we're going to fix racism and then we can play basketball. But just, I think that's part of the reason he probably walked some of it back. He's like, well, I get, you know, like some of that. And I think, I can't remember who it was on the Hoop Collective that was talking about that, but you have to, I don't know, man, you just have to be mindful that people are going through this journey and feeling it in a way, any sort of response emotionally that we would have as just bystanders watching it, you can amplify that 10, 20, 100 times over for African Americans in this community, especially prominent ones, which NBA players, whether or not they want it or choose it, they are prominent. And they are, if you look at some of the most known, I mean, I would say the most known African Americans in our world are NBA players. And so they have to feel an immense amount of responsibility in the middle of that too. So, which is just crazy. Dwight Howard has had a 180 on like every part of him. Like now all of a sudden people like him again, which for there's a while where it's like, can Dwight just go away?
I know.
Dwight, do a 180 Howard.
Right. Do a 180. There's just a lot of harsh realities within all of this, because if they decide not to play, odds are they have to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement, which will likely lead to a lockout, which could lead to no season next season, which could lead to who knows what. I mean, honestly, you lose revenue for a year and a half of the NBA. What happens?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Looks different.
And also, this is a real chance to grab fans that are like casual sports fans into becoming NBA fans, you would lose NBA fans.
Yeah, if you
Like,
nail
there's-
this thing, you could grow your league like crazy.
A lot. Yeah. You honestly could. I turned golf on Sunday.
Now I'm watching soccer, man. What am I,
I mean,
I'm watching soccer.
it is crazy. But and I understand that there are way more important things than growing the NBA. There are way more important things than basketball. I get that. I believe that is true. If we could all band together, and I think the problem is that the NBA community in itself will band together and aren't going to be the problem. Like, we're not the societal problem. Most NBA fans are not a part of the problem in society. It's reaching the people outside of that is the struggle, and will be the struggle for NBA fans, for NBA players, for all those people. Because I think that NBA Twitter has become somewhat of an echo chamber for all of this. I don't know that there's a lot of disagreement in how we should
At
be
least
treating one another.
in the media, if you're referring to media and the big like talking heads for NBA, correct?
That,
I
and
mean, I
also-
see that most of the fans, but there are still fans that I think it's unfair to say that they're on the right side too.
Yeah, I would just say a vast majority are probably on the right side of it.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because that's the way the NBA fan leans. Is more left and more
I agree.
inclusive. That's just the way the NBA is.
So if you look at the three major sports that are dealing directly with this, NASCAR comes out and says no more Confederate flags.
Yeah.
There's some outrage about that, right? Because
Oh,
their
yeah.
fans are pretty much the polar opposite of what I would assume most NBA fans are.
Mhm.
NFL has, and this is why they've just been so cowardice in responding, the NFL majority of their time, is because they just try to toe the line. They're 50-50,
Mhm.
we've got some fans that are, and it's the most popular sport in America.
I was gonna say they're the biggest.
They're the biggest, most popular sport in America, but you have enough people who, I mean, look at it. They blackballed. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick
Yep.
for multiple years because of his kneeling.
Mhm.
Owners wouldn't sign him even for backup roles. They're signing quarterbacks that are just garbage.
Yep.
Garbage. Instead of Colin Kaepernick, which I understand, like I pay attention to football a lot and I watch a lot of NFL. Colin was not, I mean, his last year in San Francisco wasn't great as far as on the field, but still he's better than Andy Dalton. There's enough. I can go through a list of quarterbacks in the NFL and say, yeah, he's better than Mitchell Trubisky. He's better than there's enough people where Colin Kaepernick should have gotten some sort of ride. So for me, as you look at the NFL and finally they're starting to back, but their fans are way more split than the NBA. The NBA would be the most progressive of all the leagues, to where if you did have LeBron James who took a knee, you wouldn't have people boycotting games. As you would have some, but it would not be the same level that you have in all these other major sports.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the owners of these teams are going to try to follow the money. And so that's why the NFL has so much issue, because of what Jay's saying. It's so split. They keep trying to follow where they think the money is. So initially, they thought the money was on the more anti-kneeling for the flag, whatever. So they went really hard on that. And that's probably the personal beliefs of a lot of these owners too, that just because of who they are. And now you see the commissioner came out the other day, Goodell, and he said something about supporting teams. He hopes a team picks up Colin Kaepernick, and it's just laughable, and it's really kind of embarrassing, because there's just no dignity left in leadership with any of those owners or like that league or anything. But admittedly, Jay provided a good example. I mean, the NBA is not like the NFL. Like, you're right, Andrew. It's definitely a more progressive league. It's easier for the owners to pick. Okay, even if they just care about money, it's easier for them to see where that money is. And so there's not going to be a lot of divide there when it comes to this stuff. And leadership in the NBA is more in one group or one belief.
Yeah. I think you did say there's like no dignity in the NFL, but maybe there is now, that they decided that they can see the other side, because it was very much so that they couldn't and wouldn't see the other side of the argument. And now they do. I think that there's become an understanding. There's also money that's involved with that understanding, because I think that really our entire country has shifted in a lot of ways. So to me, I think it's good that Roger Goodell, he had to acknowledge it. He really didn't have much of a choice, but it is good. It is good that he did, because I think now he's understands, because it was never about what he thought it was about.
Do you think it's because he understands? I just do not believe that it's because he understands. I think
he understood.
Yes.
I think he just
yeah.
finally. I think the court of public opinion made it comfortable for him to stand on that principle now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is cowardice, right? Like that's why I think he deserves whatever blasting he gets.
Yeah. You guys
but at the same time, like, there has to holding people accountable is incredibly important. Gosh, man, I feel like I'm on the verge of just being like, Andrew, will you delete the entire pod and take it off the internet?
I know.
Because there's so many things that, like, am I gonna regret saying this? So here's the hard part. In the midst of like the Roger Goodell NFL thing, is like, there's a cost. Even at this point, there'll still be a cost for them doing what they did. So is the right choice late better than not ever making the choice? Right? Like, ideally is 5 years ago, you take the principled stand regardless of the cost because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what I would say. The hard part in the midst of that is, like, it's better that he at least ever did it.
Mhm.
Like it's good that he actually did it. But this is, and even Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's one of the most brilliant Black American writers of our time, he even mentioned that this feels different than anything that's happened in his lifetime. And one of the reasons he said that is he says we feel a larger percentage of white advocacy today than we ever have.
Yeah.
And so even the NFL, although, I mean, they're given $250 million over the course of 10 years, which is important. And somebody, I can't remember who it was on Dan Le Batard, but it was he's from England or Scotland. And he was talking about it. He's an old NBA player. And he was just like, give the money, but it's not enough. Give the money, give it to different entities that are doing good and advancing the conversation and doing right in the African-American community, but it's not enough. You need to do more, and you need to start doing things to rectify some of the ways that you've really been on the other side of this argument for a majority of your time as a league.
John Amici.
Yeah, he was so good. Did you listen to his interview?
Yeah, he's super
He was
good.
incredible.
Every time he's on there.
Yeah. A hard thing to reconcile too about all of this is that at the core of the NBA, NFL, MLB, all of these, is that they are a business created to make money.
Yep.
And that's why we're doing this bubble. Okay. If safety, public health, all of these things were the major priority, racial equality, if those were all the priority, you don't do this. You don't go to all this trouble. You don't make alarms on people's wrists that go off if you're within 6 feet of each other. This is all to preserve the dollar, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's sometimes kind of a hard thing to reconcile. Okay, shifting to something that's not as serious.
Also, recognize we're three white dudes trying to talk about stuff that we really don't know, but we do know basketball-ish.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Will be our last question. We'll do just a short segment on this. The Thunder roster. So they have a chance to add players to the roster. They could take Kevin Hervey if they want down to Orlando. Is the Thunder roster as is set? So they can take up to 17 players. They could just take the 15 that they've had, but they could add more to it. Do you think it's set? Do you think they try to bring in an outside player? Do you think they try to bring Hervey? Do you think they try to sign another two-way guy? What are you guys' thoughts on the Thunder roster?
My guess would be that they are, if they were to bring anybody, that they would bring the people that are already on their team. Whether they're in the blue, like Hervey, the kid they signed from Dallas, or they traded from Dallas, whatever his name is, Roddy Beaubois. That's who. I do think that that's way more of the. I think that's way more of who they probably would go with. Just looking at the long-term plans of this team, like I heard you all talking about Alan Crabb, and I think that'd be great. Number one,
Isaiah
I think
Roby, by the way.
Isaiah Roby, thank you. I think if Alan Crabb does go anywhere, he's going to go like. If any other team has an option, if the Lakers were like, we can take 2 more players, sign Alan Crabb. Like Alan Crabb's going to go play with the Lakers.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't really matter, like which team can you get more play with because the location doesn't matter. Oh, I have to live in Oklahoma City? Nope. You get to live in Orlando in a bubble, the Grand Floridian. So maybe teams will start making decisions on which hotels are better, or maybe these free agents will be like, I don't know. I really want to stay in the Grand Floridian. But it is one of those things. I just don't see them pursuing anybody like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, Taylor. Do you see what could
I see
improve
Dwight
this
Bikes.
roster?
I see Dwight Bikes on the team. I see Romero Osby on the team.
Oh no, not Romero.
Jamario Moon.
No.
Yeah, Jamario Moon. I see him. Who else was that? Who else was on that Cavs team? Oh, Sonny.
Sonny Weems.
Yeah, Sonny Williams. He wasn't on that Cavs team. He was on the Raptors though.
Yeah, he's on the Raptors.
So I see a Sonny Weems on a team. But yeah, how about those are legit answers?
Here's the real answer on who the free agent, and he's not a free agent, obviously, but the player they'd add to the roster is Andre.
Oh,
Right.
To the roster, to the rotation, that's who it is. And they're gonna play these exhibition games. Huh?
You still don't have any idea.
No. I mean, you have as good of an idea as
Andrew, you're connected, bro.
I'm connected, bro.
Come on, bro. Give me some information.
So they'll be playing these exhibition games against the other people that are in their same hotel, is how they play those 3 exhibition games. So they'll
Like
play
in the lobby.
So
Hey,
6
so-
Rockets, Pacers, Mavs, Nets, Grizzlies, Magic. So they'll play games against those guys. They've got to play Andre during
So
those
here's my
games
question.
to see what they've got.
Dre coming back.
Yeah.
If he's any semblance of what he was, that's a big deal for this team.
Large deal. Large deal.
I mean, I'm not going to say it, but what if, Taylor?
Hey, one injury, man. Hey, things
One
are getting
injury.
weird in Orlando, guys.
Things are getting real weird.
Things are getting real weird.
Anthony Davis playing ping pong. All of a sudden, he takes one step, pulls a hammy.
Or accidentally, the ping pong accidentally goes in his mouth. Oh, it's got Rona on it. All of a sudden, Rona it out. Now the whole Lakers team has Rones.
Yep.
How about this? Chris Paul gets on the phone. Hey, I heard that Anthony Davis has left the campus. Yeah,
I've got some
he
pictures
did.
of Anthony
This is
Davis.
anonymous. Hangs up.
I did. There's somebody that
Ring,
did
ring,
this
ring.
too.
Hey, LeBron James has left. I don't know why he'd do this. It's so messed up. All right. Lakers round
Kyle,
2. Gone.
Yeah.
Andre Robertson, savior.
Andre Robertson, finals MVP.
The good thing about Dre, though, I will say this, is Chris Paul, like, number one, Chris Paul tortured Andre Robertson when in that series.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, he knows what Dre brings. So there's not going to be that much of a learning curve. Like, that is the trust with Chris Paul. Like, he's going to put Dre in the spot to be the most successful he can be from that slasher position if he can't come back. And so I don't know, man. That's just the kind of stuff that makes me a little more kind of like, this would be kind of exciting.
And
Top
Shea
9 in minutes played for the Thunder. This is how you know we need Andre Robertson if he's in any semblance of health. SGA, Chris Paul, Schroeder, Gallo, Steven Adams. That's great. Top 5, we're set. Terrence Ferguson, Nerlens Noel, Darius Baisley, Abdul Nader. The 6 through 9.
Yeah. You know, when you put it that way, it actually gives Coach Billy a lot more credit in my head because I do not notice those 4 names as much. Like, there's never a point where it's like, why are all 4 of these guys on the court right now? He does a way better job
has
on
been
the
good.
rotation.
Yeah, Nerlens has been good, but yeah, Ferguson Baisley's been good in spots, but has had some rookie moments, and then Nader, who's been improved, but is still a fringe NBA guy.
Yeah, God, when you put it that way, that is really rough.
They've got 5 guys, burgers and fries.
I would put Baisley and Knurls in there.
Yeah, and Dort, who has played only
Dort.
637 minutes total.
Lou Gentz Dort. I mean,
He's
I
been
just
good.
think you can be a defensive problem if you can have Dre at 90% or 85% of what he was.
Yeah, definitely. And you
Chris
play him as
Paul,
like a
Lou,
forward.
Dre. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, Lou Dort has probably been the 8th best player on this team this year.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's just because he's been fantastic.
Yeah, but the two-way player, the 8th best player. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how you know some things. That's how you know Andre would really help. Thanks for
Yes.
listening to our show. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter at Down to Dunk. Make sure that you subscribe to The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com/down-to-dunk to get a free trial. You don't want to miss any of this info that Shams Charania is dropping on a daily basis. So please subscribe. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And we'll have the conclusion, the final episode of the Deborah Buckus Trivia Hour, along with a special surprise on Friday.
Very
what?
not FriPod energy today.
Yeah, we got a little too deep into things that we probably should have stayed away from.
Yeah. If you're on YouTube, you've heard all of it. If you're listening on the show, sorry, you just heard 10 minutes of a podcast.
Don't worry. Next week, we'll bring you all the fast food takes you can possibly handle.
Right.
Taylor, how do I get one of those hats, man? Do I go on your website?
No, I got you one right here, bro.
Are they fitted?
No, that bag, baby.
Dang.
I got you one.
Come on, baby. All right.